you so much, sir. We now open the platform for the audience to engage with our speaker today for any questions that they might have, and I'm sure there will be many. It was definitely a very good walkthrough of what you had provided us, if I could put it like that, because there were a lot of nuances that you had observed. And I must say that the situations that you presented us with and the solutions that you presented us with are not restricted to a COVID crisis. It was aimed more at, let's say, hopefully reducing such crises, because where humans are responsible for a lot of things, and I think that is why this session holds a lot more value in today's scenario and the generations to come, because it is definitely something that everywhere, it is a common concern faced worldwide, but at the same time, it is a common, the world together is a source of the problem as well. And that's why educating the young minds is very, very important regarding the very same thing. And being the educators, the responsibility, the onus falls on us. So that is why I feel that it was very important how you presented us with a lot of facets that we need to consider, and we need to consider them right now.
We do. I couldn't agree more.
So we have a lot of feedback for you. For example, I'll just read it out for you so that you can also understand it. So we have Principal of RIS who said that yes, the session was quite engaging and enriching, and she expresses her gratitude. And then we have Rasna Joshi who says that it was definitely a very informative and interesting session.
Thank you.
We have some questions coming in. So the audience, you can continue to post the questions in the chat box, or you can use the activity section as well. Right for now, Dr. Shivananda CS is asking, first, yes, he really appreciates your views on openness on teaching and assessment, and is asking, how do we record the progress in critical thinking?
That's a great question. Yeah, this has been a hotly debated topic within academia, in terms of how you meaningfully attempt to record progress. How do you assess critical thinking skills within young people? And there are a multitude of ways. Critical thinking traditionally has very much focused on rationality and logic, and the sort of early initiatives in terms of attempting to assess critical thinking were often fairly sort of technical in their drives, and increasingly that is opened up. As with any educational initiative, research shows us that being able to provide very sort of quick feedback and meaningful feedback, the feedback process is all important in how you engage with your young people, with your students. Do they understand where they currently stand in their learning journey?
No.
Do they currently understand where they need to go? And if you're getting that dialogue right in terms of the feedback, and that it's live and that it's meaningful, then you're going to be, inevitably you will facilitate a richer skill set in the student's ability to be able to think critically. But in terms of reducing that experience down into data sets, it can be quite challenging for sure, and it's debated.
Thank you, sir. We have a lot of feedback coming based on your answer and of course your session itself. Audience, you can continue posting your questions. We can present them to the speaker, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer it. Dr. Yogita Sarwar finds your session as enlightening, so that's great.
Thank you.
Can I just come in?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Jonsson. I think it was very, very enlightening a session. I joined a little late. Sorry for that. But then, probably the way you have shown the different schools, so enticing to be part of such schools. Actually, even for a kid who really is a part of that school, probably loves learning, provided the systems are in place, right? So you mentioned one thing, that critical thinking and creativity depend on each other, they're integral to each other. But don't you think that critical thinking to a certain extent, we call it a problem solving, it's a problem solving thing that normally we allow the kids to do. We allow them to employ that skill. Whereas when it comes to creativity, it's your right side of the brain that normally functions in your creative, whereas that is the left side of the brain, this is the right side of the brain. So I think when we say creativity, it's something that doesn't come out of memory. It doesn't come that out of experience. It nearly comes out of something, that sort of an imagination, the sheer imagination, that outflow of that creativity that comes without having any connection whatsoever to the memory lanes or bylanes. So that way, I just want to ask you how, they may be a little bit separate, though they may be integral to one another, but I think creativity requires a different kind of, different kind of an effort, different kind of a skill, different kind of a capability altogether.
Yes, I mean, that's a good point. I think, if I talk to your point about critical thinking being, so you're, for example, being presented with problems and you're attempting to find solutions to those problems as well. That's also an important part of that. So fostering an ability to engage with any issue or any topic in a critical fashion, whereby you're comparing, contrasting, you have the ability to analyze and to also select relevant sources of information and compare and contrast them with one another. Absolutely, you have to engage with that issue to be able to analyze it and break it down into its constituent parts. But I would argue further than that. I would say that in order for you to be a strong critical thinker, you need to also engage. You have a responsibility to also identify solutions to those problems. And I think that's really where you're stepping into the realm of creative thinking and therefore linking into the realm of critical thinking. So the term critico-creative thinking has been coined to underline the fact that you have that responsibility as a strong critical thinker, not only to break down and criticize, if you like, but you have that responsibility as well to engage in construction, in meaning making.
Absolutely agreed, sir.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely agreed. I think we need to start being more whole-brained individuals rather than just being a left brain or a right brain person. I mean, we definitely have both sides functioning, so why not actually use it for better? Now, we actually have a comment from the principal of RIS on the previous question, who says that critical thinking can certainly lead to creative solutions to various problems, and I think that definitely sums it up.
Yeah, if I could just add, that's absolutely. I mean, I think there was a study I read recently, a sort of meta-analysis, which looked at actually several hundred schools, and they looked at the ability. They attempted to assess the ability of young people. I think actually it was the age range from 11 years old to the age of 22 years old. And what they found was that the ability of an 11-year-old to think critically was almost the same as a 22-year-old. There was very little difference across that spectrum, which is surprising. But if you think about the educational experiences those students had, it's unusual for schools to foster critical thinking in a meaningful way, whereby it's, for example, a separate program, or where critical thinking as a concept is flagged and highlighted within the curriculum. So in some ways, I thought, well, you might as well replace the word critical thinking with, for example, piano playing. If you've never exposed your students to a program of piano playing, why would you see any difference between an 11-year-old and a 22-year-old? So schools, I think, need to foster an environment whereby critical thinking as an art form, as a way of thinking about the world, and I call it an art form for a very specific reason, needs to be formalized within the curriculum.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for additional feedback on the question. I think that was quite important, the way you presented it out, especially the fact, the research that you presented. I think that is something that all of us need to be aware of. So the audience, if we will be taking on the last questions now. We have time for our last 2 questions. So if you have any, you can present it right away, or if you want, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I'd just like to ask a question. I'm Kavita from Mumbai. I just wanted to check how do the SDGs kind of get built into the curriculum, and what kind of activity does the child do? And I'm assuming the children coming to these schools are children who can influence the world and its direction. So how does that become an integral part of what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are so many ways of doing that. I think first of all, engaging with the Sustainable Development Goals and attempting to understand what they're about and where they've come from. Because of course the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, inherit the previous initiative as operated and instigated by the United Nations. So I'll give you an example of, the experiences that I have is opening up an exploration of the Sustainable Development Goals with your entire community, with your parent body, with your student body, with your staff body. And schools, generally speaking, have a development plan. They have a set of goals that they identify over a series of years, 2, 3, 5 years, whatever it may be. One example could be to look at ways in which you could incorporate those goals into the development plan for the whole school. And you could, in a similar kind of way that you could attempt to incorporate critical thinking across the entire development plan of your school, you could also incorporate the Sustainable Development Goals. One example, for example, at Dulwich College Seoul is safeguarding is a hugely important topic for us. And so within the agenda of every single meeting within the college, whether it's meetings across the student body or within the staff body, safeguarding is one of those agenda items that is always there. In the same way you could incorporate sustainability or other topics related to the climate emergency or related to the Sustainable Development Goals into those meetings. So I guess it really what I'm saying is that you're attempting to foster a cultural shift within your community that engenders a focus upon these issues. They become something. They sit at the heart of your overall mission and vision. That's another way in which you could do that too.
Thank you.
Yes, so that answers the questions quite beautifully. We have one last question if anybody has.
I just wanted to say greetings to my father. He's there, I can see him. He's joined us from Iceland. Hi, Jon.
You're on mute, sir. You're on mute. There's a red mic that you can just click on, and then I think yes.
Yes, hello, and been enjoying this lecture and seeing all the people. Thank you very much. Greetings from Iceland.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for raising such a fine young visionary, if I could say. It is definitely something you have. I'm sure you would have inspired him, right? And today he is inspiring not only us, but the future generation itself. So I think that is quite commendable. Thank you for that.
Thank you. You're very kind.
All right, audience. So we'll be concluding today's session, which I must say it was a very fine session. Thank you so much, Mr. Gudmundur, for joining us today and presenting us such a global educational perspective on a platter.
My pleasure. An absolute pleasure to be with you all here today.
Yes. So I think a lot of us would like to connect with you, and so audience, we'll be sharing the contact details, the email ID on the chat box any moment right now. You can take it down, and I think over the email we can begin a conversation and realize our cumulative mutual goals effectively.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Jonsson has also shared his LinkedIn profile, so I think that would be a good platform to connect as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Lots of appreciation from India. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Jonsson, for connecting today. I think it was quite a treat for all of us when we knew that you are also a part of the session today. Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you, audience, for being such a lovely participants today. We'll be connecting tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock with our speaker for tomorrow. Have a great day ahead.